Hi everyone. So in this video, I'm just going to give an overview of some of the more technical aspects of Repl, which is where we do the exercises. And I'm hopefully going to give some insight into what this terminal window on the right-hand side does, talk a little bit about the command line, a little bit about Linux, and hopefully by the end of this and through what we do in class, have some sort of a better general understanding of how these things are put together and how these things kind of work. So the way we're used to doing these exercises is we go into src, we go into exercise.py, which is this file here, and then we click run. And what happens when we click run is that Repl does some stuff and it basically runs that program. And if you're used to other programming languages, you probably have an IDE which works in some similar sort of way. You click run, stuff happens, and there we go. We can actually use the terminal to run commands, and this is kind of where we're going to head with this course, is to just run commands, run programs out of the terminal, because that just makes everything kind of a lot easier in terms of understanding how these things fit together. So I'm going to take you through some general Linux commands, and then as we just go through this video, you'll see some of them. I'll also do some kind of on my PC rather than inside Repl. And then you'll be able to kind of follow along and do similar sorts of stuff on your own machine. So the first thing that I suppose is kind of important is to understand the directory structure. So you've got, let's call this the root directory at the moment. And a really important command in Linux is ls, which basically means list, which lists the contents of your current directory. So if I type ls and press return, then stuff pops up and we should be able to match these things up over here. Anything with a dot in front of it is a hidden file, so that won't turn up with ls. There's another command that you can get to show them, but I'm not going to show that just now. So you've got src, you've got tests, you've got readme. Now over here in our kind of clickable file structure, if we click in src, then we can see those files there. So if I ls src, that should list me the contents of the src directory. So if I return that, then there we go. Now instead of listing my root directory, I've listed what's in src. I can do the same thing in test, tests with an S, and then it'll show me what's in tests as well. Again, some hidden files knocking about there. PyCache is not shown in the graphics, and the dot files are not shown in the terminal. There are commands that will show everything, but just be aware that sometimes there are hidden files you can't see in one or the other. So basically what happens when you press run is this command gets run. Python src /exercise.py. So that runs the Python, it runs the Python command on the exercise.py file, which lives inside the directory src. And these forward slashes just mean inside the directory. So if we had two directories, we go // and so on. And I'll talk about that hierarchy in a sec, and you can kind of see what I mean by the hierarchy on the screen now. So on this slide, you can see that the folders are kind of embedded within each other, and then the forward slashes dictate where you are in the folders. So it's important to keep that image in your mind as you kind of go through these and try and have a mental understanding of how directories fit together. So if I run Python src exercise.py, then in theory this should run my code. But if you'll notice what happens when I type in my user input, which is what I am expected to do in this exercise, I should end up with a syntax error. And this is the exact same error as we get, which causes all of the problems with the testing, because Repl is trying to run Python 2, as you can see at the top, Python 2.7, when we actually have written this code in Python 3. So what I need to do is get that command back, and I press up to do that. I need to go and change that to Python 3. And then if I run that again, and I write my hello world, it should return me then the message that I put in. So there's already that conflict there between Python 2 and Python 3. That's unfortunately the way that Repl works, and it's not particularly straightforward to change it. The way we changed it before is using a virtual environment, and that's always good practice to do. And the way that works is basically, if you think of like an emulator of a SNES or an N64 that you can run in your browser. So if you ever played like Mario or Sonic in your browser, that's basically an emulator for that games platform. That's essentially what we do when we create a virtual environment in REPL. So that was that virtual env command where we did something like that, and then so on and so on and so on. That creates basically an emulator inside this environment, which will run Python 3. But don't worry too much about that. The key take-home message for this is that you can actually run Python commands inside the terminal without clicking the big run button. And the more practice you get at this, the better you will be. So key commands so far: ls stands for list. Python 3 runs a Python 3 file. You can run that from within any directory by specifying the path. So I'm inside the src directory that's specified by the / exercise.py run and so on. Okay, so you can obviously do this on your own computer as well. And if you've ever seen it before, the Windows PowerShell or the CMD. So if you go down to search and type in CMD, you'll get a black window. It looks a bit like this. And this is exactly the same. This is just a terminal window which allows you to interface with your PC in a slightly different way, other than clicking on files and dragging them and dropping them around. So obviously in your computer, you've got folders. If you open up Windows Explorer, you can see things like this. So I can go in there, I can find my user, I can find my documents and so on. I can navigate around the folders. I can click and drag and copy and paste and all sorts of stuff like that. I can also do that in the PowerShell command window. So the Windows equivalent of ls is dir, but ls inside PowerShell also works. So ls again lists the contents of a directory. And I should be able to again match these up with the things that are over here. So if I double click on users, then here's a new command for you to change directory in the command window in PowerShell or in Linux, it's cd. So if I change directory into users, then ls again, I should again be able to match these up with the stuff that I see there. Once again, jumping into smorgan, cd smorgan, then I can list the contents of that and match them up again. Obviously, I can jump into directories kind of all in one go. So if inside my, inside my documents folder, if I look, I've got a folder called Adobe, and inside there I've got something called Premiere Pro. I can do this in one command. So over here in my command window, I can cd into documents, and if I press tab, it auto completes for me into Adobe, into Premiere Pro, and then I can ls in there as well. And there's a folder in there, but it looks a bit called 14.0. Let's just check documents, Adobe, Premiere Pro 14.0. Cool. So I can navigate around this folder structure just by using commands, and this can be really, really powerful. This can be, it's quite dangerous as well. You can remove things, move things all in one go, but it can be really, really quick and improve productivity massively if you kind of understand what you're doing here. Again, I can run Python commands in here. This command window is essentially exactly the same as that command window there, except this one is Windows and that one is Linux. But there is, and if you check in the links underneath this video, there is a way of running Linux commands on Windows. It's called WSL, which is Windows Subsystem for Linux. And that just allows you basically to run a Linux command prompt from inside your Windows machine. And this is where things get really neat, especially in terms of running Python commands. So if I am in this window and I ls, the way this is set up from a sort of basic standpoint is that there's no directories currently in here. There's nothing set up in this machine at all in this space, but we can access our Windows files by a special kind of command. It lives in the mnt directory, which stands for mount. So if I go into mount, I can go into C drive, and then from C drive, I can get all the stuff that lives in my C drive. So if I ls mntc, then it looks a bit funky because these are in colors, but you can match these things up. You've got users, Windows, support, and then again, some hidden files. And again, I can go in here, find the users, smorgan, and just tab into autocomplete documents, and then I can go straight back into my Adobe Premiere Pro 14 if I want to. And then I can see the directories that live in there. So let's just clear that for a sec. Okay, Linux command time. I'm going to go through possibly 5, can't remember, I haven't counted off the top of my head, 5 commands that I think are critical, kind of really important commands to know in Linux. And at the end of this video, I will put up a slide and some links to go and have a little more further read about them. It'll be in the description underneath this video. The first one, ls, stands for list. Lists directories in a folder or files in a folder. I'm going to make this big so that we can see it here. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is mkdir. That means make directory. So basically make a folder. So let's call this my folder. And it's good practice to never use spaces in folder names when you're mucking about in a Linux command line, because it just makes things more difficult in terms of navigating around. So I'm going to do my underscore folder. If I do that and then ls, I've got my folder just there. Now, we've already seen this one. If I want to move into that folder, I need to change directory. So that's cd. I can cd into my folder. I just click tab, and then it auto completes for me, and then I'm in there. And if you notice now that my path just here has changed, it tells me that I'm inside my folder. ls, nothing in there because I just made it. Okay, command number 4, touch. Touch is a weird one. Touch just creates a blank file. So let's call this my file. Again, not using spaces. I'm going to call it myfile.txt. So that's a blank text file. If I ls again, there's my file. Okay. The next command we're going to use is, well, there's 2 ways of doing this. I'm going to use echo just for now. And all this is going to do is just put some words into this text file. So if I echo hello world, and then I do a double arrow into myfile.txt. So that is literally going to put hello world as text into that file. And I can see the contents of that file with the slightly strange term, slightly strange command cat. So if I cat myfile.txt, it should come up with hello world. Now I can go in there then and open that file in Notepad or some other word editing piece of software, and that's what I'll see. I'll see hello world. So I could, in theory, write an entire kind of sentence conversation in this file if I wanted to, whatever. I can put whatever I want in there, and then it'll just turn up to be a text file. And this is exactly what a Python file is. A Python file is literally just a text file. So if I touch a Python file, let's say let's call it hello world.py, and then I can echo my hello world command into there. Then all this is going to do, I think I'll probably need single quotes there, and then into hello world.py. So what is that? That's going to put that line into that file, and it's going to make it a Python file for me. So it looks like there that I can't use an exclamation mark in the echo command. If I open this in a text editor, I would be fine, but it's shouting me for doing that. So let's just leave the exclamation mark out for now. And then I can cat hello world.py, and I see that. Now then, thinking back to Repl, I can run that too. So I can run Python 3 hello world.py, and you'd expect the output, it's going to print hello world. There you go. Okay. So I've created that file, I've run it in Python. One more kind of really important command. Actually, I'm going to do 3 more. One is cp, which means copy. So if I do cp hello world to hello world 2, that makes a copy of that file. So you can see now I've got another file there. The other one is MV. So CP is copy, MV is move. So if I do move helloworld2.py to new file.py, then that is actually going to rename it. Basically, it's going to rename that helloworld2 to new file, like an ls. There we go. I've got a new file. I've got my file, which I made earlier, and I've got the hello world file there. And then the final command, which is really important and can be kind of dangerous, is rm, and that means remove. So if I do rm new file.py, then I hit return, I get no warning, no nothing, it's just gone. Is it recoverable? No. It's pretty much wiped from the machine forever with no warning. So you can see how that can be really dangerous. I could, in theory, if I cd up, so cd double dot go back to my root file, then if I rm the directory, and I've got to give it a special little dash and an r to tell it it's a directory. If I run that command, it's gone. My files are gone, my Python file is gone, my new file, whatever I had in that directory is gone and gone forever with no way of recovering it. So just be real careful mucking about in the terminal. You can fry your entire machine. So I wouldn't kind of recommend doing it in any machine that you particularly care about, that you have stuff on there that you don't want to lose. So on the screen now, there will be a list of Python commands. Sorry, not Python commands, a list of terminal commands. The ones that we've covered. Hopefully those will be kind of critical for you as you sort of go through this course. And hopefully this has given you a little bit more of a deeper insight into how the terminal works. Take home message, also on the screen, get a mental image of how directories work. Understand that you can run Python files inside or outside of directories using // and understand just vaguely how the path works. Don't worry too much about it at this stage. It will become clearer as we go through these notes, but I thought this would be a kind of helpful overview to you all as you kind of go through these exercises. Any questions, of course, just shout, let me know, and we will go over this in class in more detail as well. Thanks all.